So I want to talk about a relationship I had that caused a lot of tears. This relationship was with a hallway. And so the first time I ever think about this moment, I was in this hallway, waiting in business casual attire to enter a conference room. I go into the conference room, I look around the table, there are 6 professors. They're all about to ask me questions about anything they want to for 2 hours straight. None of the professors look like me. And the thing I remember the most is the first question. What is LD? I look at the audience, the 6 professors, and I go blank. I don't remember the answer to this question, which is crazy because I had spent 2 years before taking coursework, studying furiously, doing practice exams, but it's an oral exam that I had never practiced in front of people who know more than I do, who don't look like me. And so I black out. I don't remember what happens next. I'm back in this hallway. They call me back in. And one of the professors, who was an advisor of mine, looked heartbroken. And she tells me, Janina, I'm sorry, you didn't pass the exam. Now, this was the first time I had ever failed anything. I mean, being a PhD and going straight from undergrad, I was just like stellar, winning science fairs. So I had never experienced failure at all. I didn't know what to do in that moment. I started crying, and my PhD advisor started crying as well. And so we're in there crying, and she tells me, well, I didn't pass my qualifying exam either. And I was particularly touched by that, but I was also thinking like, well, you know, she still made it here. She also didn't look like me. I'm the only person I've ever seen walk the halls of this hallway that looked like me that wasn't a part of the cleaning staff. And so I was like, man, I studied so hard to not be the one that stood out, not be the one that looked different and had a different experience than the other students, but I didn't. I was embarrassed. My PhD advisor told me, you know what, Janina, go home, take a break, rest, don't think about this. You know this information. Another PhD student comes up to me, she was a year ahead of me. She comes up to me, she gives me a hug, and she says, you know, you don't really have to get the PhD. You could just get the master's. Your family would be proud of you. And then another person who worked in the hallway said, you know, Janina, you don't listen to her. You go ahead and remember this moment because this is going to make your story just that much more interesting. So this is my story. 2 years later, I'm in the hallway. It's like 7 a.m., Valentine's Day, a day I intentionally picked. And it's about 55 degrees in Nashville, so I have on like a business skirt and jacket, nothing crazy. And I'm standing in the hallway waiting to go give my PhD defense. And so I'm anxious, my hands are sweaty, you know, my whole family came here. And just so you know, it's really cheap to fly on Valentine's Day. And so they flew from New Orleans to Nashville, and they come up the hall, and it was like a scene of Coming to America or like Black Panther. I hear African drums beating, and it's just like a gang of folks walking up in floor-length minks. 55 degrees, yeah. And some of my family members had we're very Afrocentric, so some of my family members had on like their best kente, this like really nice thick mud cloth coats, and they're all walking up to me in unison, and I'm just like, I have chills, you know, like it's a beautiful scene, but I'm also like, this is really gonna stand out at Vanderbilt. Like no one is gonna forget this day. I cannot, I can't mess this up, and I don't want to stand out any more than I do. But my family was so excited, so they're like, let's take pictures. Like, I want to take a picture of this moment. And you know, if you're taking pictures with family, you got to do the group picture, and you got to do the single pictures, and like, we're in the middle of the single pictures. And so now it's getting closer to the time I'm about to defend. I'm taking a picture with my grandmother, and she comes and she has her floor-length mink that I'm pretty sure she hasn't worn in 20 years in the 55-degree weather. And she smelled, I can always remember her smell. She smells so fragrant. And then another person comes up to me and they say, Janina, I don't want to interrupt the picture, but I just want to tell you, do you know you're going to be the first Black person to get a PhD in this program? And I'm like, and then my aunt is like, let me try and take this picture. And so as she's about to take the picture, my grandmother's like, dusting off her mink, ready to take this nice picture. And I am like tearing up. And it's not from that fragrant perfume of hers. I'm just tearing up because I'm realizing this full circle moment of 2 years ago when I was in this very hallway crying. But this time it was like a slow cry. The first one was an ugly cry. This one was a slow cry, and tears were slowly coming down. And there were tears of joy. This was a moment I had never experienced before. And so after that, I'm like, okay, I'm about to go into this room, I can't mess it up. We stand out, I'm pretty sure no one has ever seen this lecture hallway full of minks and kente cloth. It's gonna be great, I'm not gonna mess it up. My family's like, okay, is there anything you need from us before you go in? I say, I need you guys not to ask questions. I know you're really excited. I know you're gonna be amazed. You're gonna ask questions, but you wanna ask questions. I will handle your questions later. Do not ask questions. I give the defense, which I really in a cheesy way decorated that PowerPoint with black hearts because it was Valentine's Day. It was very bad. But anyway, I give the defense and a few professors ask questions. But if you've ever been to a PhD defense, a lot of the committee will wait to ask the hard questions after the defense. They don't want to embarrass you in front of your family. And so a few people ask questions, and then, the room kind of gets silent. The questions kind of taper off. And then there's this one person in the back, and it's Aunt Mildred. She traveled from Cincinnati, and she also had a floor-length mink on. And she slowly raises her hand, and I'm looking around the room, trying to pretend I don't see her. And then it gets awkward, because then it was very obvious that she's so I'm okay, Aunt Mildred, what's your question? And I'm cringing, she's about to ask a crazy question. And she asked me, well, genetically, what's the difference between African-born on the continent and African-American? I'm wow. That's actually a really big part of my thesis. And I answered the question, and I also think all the professors were really impressed. They're like, yeah, her family knows science. And so I answered the question, and in that moment, it was a huge shift from this gut-wrenching embarrassment to this very prideful moment. So the thesis defense is over. I give my thank yous, and we go into the conference room again, the same 6 professors as before. And they ask me all the tough questions. I answer all the tough questions. None of them tough as Aunt Mildred's question. And it was easy. There was a lightness in the room. There was happiness. There was celebration. There was nothing intimidating about the room or the questions like it was the first time. And they say, you passed.